Got it. Thank you, everybody. Welcome to Latinos in Clinical Research August webinar. So we have today two guests that we have not get anyone yet with their background. So it's going to be our first time, and we are very excited about it. We have today Carlos Leiva. He is a doctor trained overseas, but he's a very seasoned doctor. He's a surgeon from the University of Honduras. He's a founded member of ASOSEM UNICA. That's the Association of Research Medical Students. He's also actively participating in multiple medical and scientific research protocols in Honduras, Mexico, and USA. He is also a former student of the CRC Academy. And so he's gonna tell us a little bit about his background and his story coming to United States as a foreign trained physician. And he's gonna share a little bit about it. So I let you guys hear his amazing story. He's actually great at networking. So I leave you with Carlos.
Thank you for the warm welcome, Monica. Thank you for having me, everyone, and for being here today. Yeah, so like Monica said, my name is Carlos Leiva. I'm originally from Honduras, beautiful country in Central America, in the heart of the continent. I was born, raised, and trained overseas in Honduras. I'm a trained physician, and I immigrated to the US as of a little bit over a year ago, like somewhere like around 14 months. The first moment that I arrived in the country, to the US, I encountered the very first obstacle, which is as after 12 years of professional training, 12, 13 years of professional training in healthcare, in advanced science, in medical fields, and back home, I wasn't able to work here in anything that I was officially trained for and formally trained for, due to licensure, due to many different steps that you have to overcome in the US in order for you to be able to go back into the field. So the easiest path for every IMG, we're called IMGs, International Medical Graduates, as the easiest path is you start working as a medical assistant, which is pretty much where you're not exactly providing care for patients. You're just like taking care of the administrative part, and rather than the clinical part. But we are clinicians at heart, so I wasn't exactly happy doing what I was doing. So I've always had this urgent passion for scientific research itself. However, this is very interesting, because even though I had been trained in scientific research and medical research, I had no idea that the clinical research field was so accepting and so welcoming to many different professionals from different backgrounds. And when I started researching about I stumbled upon the material that Dan has up on YouTube. That's how I started looking into everything. And it was very, very inspiring, because it was very realistic. And I had no idea that as a trained physician, I had the opportunity to contribute instead of designing a protocol, because as physicians, you're trained to like design protocols.
Carlos, you got muted.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Do you hear me now? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that. So I was very excited, and I was very enticed by the fact that I'm now able to participate of the process of when you are testing a new drug and launching a new drug, or testing a new medical device. That completely blew my mind, because I had never thought that I could be a part of something like that. So as a trained physician, as a clinician at heart, I decided to go deeper into this, and that's how I met Monica, and that's how she called me on the day that I was moving. Actually, I was in the middle of moving all my boxes, when Monica called me and she's like, hey, we need to talk. And because I had reached out previously to the CRC Academy, and that's how my story started in clinical research. And I'm able to pivot my career into a field that is extremely rewarding and super stable, because it's an industry that is extremely stable. I have no idea this was the thing here, because in our countries that doesn't exist. There's no regulations for clinical research, so you cannot legally test drugs in our countries. It's very different, the approach that we have back home. So the fact that I'm able to have access to that now here, and I'm blown away, and everyone else in my social circle, in my professional social circle, they're blown away, and they're super excited about the fact that we can actually get training to become a part of a new drug or a new protocols that will ultimately change our lives, change patients' lives. And that
yeah, this is a very good. Sorry to cut you off. What I was gonna ask you, what are your thoughts as an IMG on being a coordinator? Because today my business partner Chris, who I think he might be on, but might be calling in. But he was telling me he talked to a PI today, and the PI, we told him about our CRC Academy, and the PI said, no, I don't need the CRC Academy because I'm hiring an IMG, and they're doctors, so they're smart. So there's like this, they're not the same thing. Chris eventually talked to him about the skill sets are different, totally different jobs. I mean, yes, there's the IMG could be smart, doesn't mean you're going to be a good coordinator. But what are your thoughts? Because this is not the first time I run across this idea that somehow a study coordinator is inferior for a physician.
So that's a very interesting question, then, because I thought about it. When I started reading about it, is what does a CRC do? And it's a clinical research coordinator, and technically I'm a clinician, so I have the clinical part. The research, well, as physicians, we're required to fulfill a certain amount of hours of research, but the coordinator part, it's not only, I thought, this being a coordinator, it's just being a good leader, yada yada. I was so wrong. I was so wrong. We have zero knowledge when it comes to FDA regulations. We have zero knowledge when it comes to luckily, since I had been involved in scientific research previously, I had my NIH certificate previously. So I was exposed to a little bit. I was exposed to a very little bit, but absolutely not after, like I mentioned, after 12, 13 years of schooling and professional training, I would not be able to carry out, to the best of my ability, the duties of a CRC without the training that I have received currently with the CRC Academy. It's virtually impossible, because we're not trained to be coordinators. We're not trained to be CRCs, and so this is ultimately something that will translate when I decide to further my clinical training into the fact that I'm going to be able not only to prescribe medication, but to come out with new options, new treatment options, because of my new exposure to clinical research.
And Monica, I think you're mute, but yeah, thank you, Carla.
Yes,
I've
yeah.
been meaning to ask this
Yeah,
question every
I
chance
was
I get.
saying, I know that I was, I'm very happy to hear that answer from Carlos, because obviously it's like my sister will say, it's different the pears than the apple. I mean, both come from a tree. So what I'm trying to say is that both are in healthcare somehow, and obviously having the medical background or the education, it will definitely be a huge plus. But the processes that the clinical research coordinator do requires obviously some more education. Yeah, so now we have our other guest, Lastenia. Lastenia is she's a lawyer, not just trained in United States, but also in Honduras. So she's a double-time lawyer. She concentrates all her efforts in immigration, practice of family, employment, and humanitarian and sporting defense. Lastenia, like I say, is licensed both here and in Honduras. Her legal exposure started in Honduras and working as a judicial assistant of the Supreme Court of Justice. Wow, what an amazing background. So she's here to talk about the opportunities and the options that are out there for people that, I mean, like, for example, like Carlos. Carlos later on is going to share a little bit more about his story, immigration story that actually it has a lot to do with Lastenia. They are both from Honduras and they know each other from there. So welcome and thank you for being here, Lastenia. Thank you very much. Like I mentioned before, it's the very first time we ever had a lawyer talking about such an important topic such as immigration and the opportunities that people have with research, most especially doctors trained overseas.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, so essentially, nowadays, there's so many opportunities, visa opportunities for brilliant people. Like what we need is, brilliant mind, people that actually want to go forward with their future. One of the ways to do it, of course, and the most important way to do it is through the education, right? And so, yeah, I am excited to be here with you guys, discuss on legal options, visas for foreign trained doctors that want to come to the US like Carlos. And of course, I want to share their successful stories. But let's start this way. Do you have any specific questions that you guys want me to answer?
Yeah, everybody, feel free to unmute yourself, or if you want to leave in the chat, myself, Monica, Judy, we could look at the chat and read questions when they come up.
Lastenia, I do have a question, and it's not pertaining to someone who's a foreign medical graduate, but what about other international student graduates who come to the US and, they further their education, maybe get like a master's in clinical research, maybe they have a different background in their country, like a pharmacist, and then they graduate and they're looking for a job, but they're here temporarily. So I don't know if you can go over that if there's time.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So essentially, the most important thing is that we look into the applicant background, right? The education. The first requirement is that the person is legally in the country. So if they enter legally and they have a valid legal status, and they do have the equivalent of a bachelor's degree in the US, then there's different options for that person. But that will depend on the job offer that the person is getting. For instance, there's so many visas, right? There are many visas available for people. And depending on the type of job offer that they are obtaining and their background education, that will determine the type of visa that they will be able to obtain. For instance, if you have someone that has a foreign master's degree, they for sure meet the requirements of a U.S. bachelor's degree. But that would not only be that would not be the only thing that is required. It's also going to be required that they have years of experience working as whatever degree they have. And aside of that, you also need a U.S. employer making an offer to them, whether it is to come for a research site, which is essentially one of the most common, and for that people uses the J1 visa. There is one requirement that the J visa has, and it's that the people that comes with that visa, they are required to be outside the US thereafter for 2 years. However, there's a waiver for that. So it really depends on the background education and the job offer that the people is obtaining.
Okay, and quick question to follow up on that. So if they get an offer in the US from an employer like a research site, does it usually that company will sponsor their visa, or is this something independently they can do to go through a process, or usually it's the employer who has to like sponsor? I don't know if that's the right term.
Yeah. Exactly. So the employer has to sponsor the visa, essentially. They have, if it's for a research, for instance, the employer has to have, of course, the need of someone to come to work on some research. And so the employer will be the sponsor of that visa. That cannot, the individual cannot do it by itself.
I have a quick question in regards to that. On average, obviously, you don't know the answers, right? But on average, what will be the cost of sponsoring somebody like in that situation?
There's really no cost other than the attorney's fees and the immigration process fees. But there's no requirement that the sponsor pays, X amount of money to the government. There's nothing like that. What is required is, depending on the type of visa, that the company that is sponsoring the foreigner has at least 1 year to be in the market, because they have to have filed taxes for at least 1 year. And the employer have to prove the need of bringing this person to the US. But the cost varies depending on the type of visa that the person is applying for. There's so many visas, but that's essentially what it is.
Oh, okay, thank you for that. We have some
Sure.
questions on the chat. So, Olayumuke asked, hello, is there opportunity for pharmacists too with visiting visa?
Pharmacies for what, I'm sorry?
With so I'm thinking that they are referring to a visa, like a tourist visa, that the person is here with tourist visa.
Yeah, if the person is in the United States with a tourist visa, let's just remember that the purpose of the tourist visa is, there's two purposes, where if they have the B1, B2, B1 is business, B2 is tourism. So if they are in the United States, the most important thing, like I said at the beginning, is that they are in a legal status, meaning that the 6 months that we're giving to them to remain in the United States are still valid. From there, for example, pharmacists, they can work on college. If they do some sort of investigation research for college universities, they can perfectly switch to a different type of visa. But yeah, definitely, if they are in the United States in a legal status, there's different visa options for pharmacists.
Okay, the next question. Thank you for that, Lastenia.
Yeah, sure.
How about for a person who, this is Carla. Thank you, Carla. It's nice to see you here. How about for a person who is trained as a coordinator in another country, and I would like to bring to the USA?
So she's a coordinator overseas, and she wants to come to the United States, or she wants to bring someone that is a coordinator to the United States?
Yeah, she wants to bring someone that is a coordinator to the United States. So she wants to be the sponsor.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, every single case has to be evaluated individually, because we have to make sure that the person meets the education requirement. It's not only the education, but it's also education, training, abilities, right? That's the one thing that we have to evaluate, as well as the employer, the US employer need to bring someone to the United States. So if this person is going to add up to the employer's company, most definitely the person can be sponsored.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, Andrea, thank you, Andrea. Hello, it is possible to apply for a TN visa.
TN visa is for Canadian and Mexicans. So if you are a Canadian national or a Mexican national, yes, provided that you have a job offer in the United States.
Okay, everybody's happy with the answers. I don't see any more questions in the
Okay,
chat.
actually, I do have another question to
Okay.
follow up, maybe, because I know some people in situations like this. So if they've received a job offer, okay, they graduated their master's program, they're an international student, they're here legally, they received a job offer, they're gonna accept it, take that job offer, then they start that process to,
Yes.
right? Or
It
yeah.
really depends because there's two ways to do it. One way, if they are in the United States legally, they can switch to a different type of visa depending the type of visa that we're going to be applying for them. Now, if they want to go back to their home country, we can do something that is called consular processing. Essentially, we'll do the process, but in a different way. They will submit the petition. Once that is approved, the person is going to go to the U.S. Embassy in their home country to an interview, depending on the type of visa. That's the way it is done. Because what happens is sometimes they'll take the job, the offer, but they want to keep or they want to conserve their tourist visa, right? Because if they do an adjustment within the United States, then their visa, their tourist visa is gonna basically adjust to a different type of visa. And in that regards, they can lose their visa. So in order for them to conserve it, they will have to do a consular processing. Like I said, every single case needs to be evaluated depending on the facts and the circumstances of each individual case. But there's I love the United States. There's so many ways that you can come to the US, work legally, and be successful. I mean, myself, I am one of those, right? I came to the United States. I was a Honduran attorney, came and did all the process, went to law school, became an attorney in the United States. Carlos is another example. So there's real people that is, like doing things that are possible for those who actually wants to come and those that actually have goals and those that actually wants to move forward with their life. What they have to do is make a decision and say, hey, you know what? I want to do it. I want to study. I want to be someone. I want to be successful. There's ways, ways to do it legally speaking.
Okay, now Cassandra wanted to ask a question.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I have two quick questions. First, from a standpoint, I think Carla also had the same question. On average, we know that each case is different, but on average, how long does the process take?
It can take between 6 months to 12 months, depending on the type of visa. Because there's different bases. It can be family basis, humanitarian basis, employment basis. Depending on the type of visa, it can take between 6 months to 12 months to be approved.
Okay. And I think some people listening to the webinar later on in the recording might say, well, I'm an employer. I've never done this before. This is new territory for me, but we're pushing in the industry this whole diversity and inclusion. This is one way to bring more diverse clinicians into the space. But what does this mean from a timing investment for these organizations, right? You have the experience that you've had successful cases, but from someone that may be a little apprehensive to go through this process, what advice or what tips would you give them to say, yes, do it? It's not that hard. It's not that labor intensive, and it can be done.
Well, that's exactly what I will say. If you have the goal to actually get it done, the most important thing is that you get a good attorney that advise you on what the process is and how you need to move forward with the project. But yeah, that's essentially what it is.
That's a great question, Cassandra. Thank you very much, because a lot of companies,
every beginning from, any standpoint, the employer or the applicant or, someone that is trying new stuff, at every beginning brings, changes, brings, you get scared, you don't know how to do things. But if you have the vision to actually do it, all you have to do is get someone that is going to actually, knock on doors. Get someone that is going to actually point you on that way and advise you on how you need to do things in order to move forward with your project.
Yeah, I think the best way to go is starting to looking for professional advice, like an attorney, because there is no one else that will give you best advice on that And then on top of that, the attorney can give you guidance and put you in the right direction. So you will know exactly what will be the next step. And then obviously get it done.
It's to add something. I'm sorry to cut you off. To add something about the process and the time frame. Lastenia, if you could probably answer this much better. The current administration has approved an expedite channel, an expedited way for employment-based visas. To what I understand, so you would get your case adjudicated. You'll have to pay the premium advance, the premium expedite fee, but you can get your case adjudicated in under 90 days or something like that. Am I correct?
Yeah, that is correct. That's, like the new administration has, because what happened is during the pandemic, there were so many employment applications that they didn't actually, they weren't used because of, like the embassies were closed. There were so many things that happened during COVID. And so now the administration has approved the premium expedite fees, where if your employer is sponsoring an employment-based visa for you, and there's different visas that they're sponsoring for you, you can pay the premium fees, and you shall get the approval or the decision sooner than the 6 months. They said 90 days. Exactly, that's exactly right. And thank you for reminding me of that, Carlos. I kind of forgot because that's new.
Yeah, thank you. And also they have the exclusivity, as I understand it. So if an employer sponsors your work visa, the beneficiary is required to work during the period of time that the visa is approved for the same employee, correct?
That is correct.
The same employer.
Okay, and then I have another question, and then we go with the questions in the chat. Is there any benefit of applying like for a work or something in research specifically?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The United States encourage people to come and use their abilities to make research. Especially, like they want medicals, they want pharmacists, and they want all these healthcare professionals to come to the United States, because that's one of the things that they care the most, which is the healthcare system in the United States. So if you are looking to come to the US and do some sort of research, there's actually the most common visa for that is the H-1B visa, simply because there's no cap on it. And there's always a visa available for those that wants to do research, and also for those that wants to actually be teachers in community college. So if you want to come to the United States and you are a healthcare professional or trained, or you're involved in that, that's one of the things that the United States always says yes, provided that you of course meet the requirements.
Oh, that's great.
It's part of the STEM program. If I understand well, it's part of the STEM program, which is the science and informatics and the technology, something like that, right? So part of the STEM program, they apply for a waiver and an expedite case.
Yeah. Essentially, once you are in the US, depending on the type of visa that you have, like I said, when you have a J1 visa and you want to switch to a different type of visa, normally any other professional will have to go back to their home country and stay there for 2 years. However, if you are a healthcare professional and you want to switch to a different type of visa within the United States, you can always apply. Most of the time, you can apply for a waiver. So you can just switch and remain in the United States.
That's great,
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
So we have many questions in the chat. So question, since this industry is so specific, how detailed as a company or prospective need to get for the immigrant officers? I mean, I get tired of explaining what I do just to get a regular loan. I cannot imagine how difficult why I need to be how difficult when I need to bring someone from another country.
Well, that's the reason why you get a good immigration attorney. So they will do the job for you. All you have to do is follow the attorney's advice as to what documents you need to provide or what information you need to provide, and the attorney will handle everything for you. But Essentially, you have to make an offer, right? You have to provide a job opportunity for this person. And you also have to show the need of this person to come to the United States, and the need will be based on different things. For instance, the people background, education, right? Education background. And also the need because there's no people in the United States that is available, or there's few people available to comply with the research that you need, or to comply with the job that you need. So you have to do your part, but it wouldn't be as, it's not that difficult, especially when you get an attorney that actually loves their job. They get creative, and all you need to do is get with the right person, and they will advise you on how to move forward with it.
We're going to be providing Lastenia information at the end, and obviously it's gonna be on our link below the video once we post it. So so anybody that wants to get in contact with her, she's one of those passionate, creative lawyers. And plus she understands what it is to be immigrant.
Exactly, absolutely.
Yeah.
I can vouch for that.
Yeah. Do we have any more questions, or we just going to start talking about specific kind of visas or opportunities? Anybody has any more questions?
I don't have a question, but I have something to add also from a professional standpoint as healthcare professionals. Meaning, for example, in my case, as an IMG, but it is also applies for PharmDs, for pharmacists, and some dentists and microbiologists as well. Every healthcare professional, whatever in our countries is required to be associated to a professional college, like the Honduran Professional College of Physicians and Pharmacists, it's considered an advanced degree in the U.S. academically. So that's considered an advanced degree, meaning that that's more than, it's of course is equal to a bachelor's, but it's greater than a master's degree, but below a doctorate degree, below a PhD. So the academic requirements are fulfilled if we hold a degree from an approved institution by the U.S. because there's a lot of medical schools around the world that they're not certified by the American system. So as long as your school where you obtained your degree is registered and it's certified by the U.S., there's a website where you can check if your school is registered because they have to pay every 2, 3, or 4 years. I'm not sure the registration. Then your degree is perfectly academically valid here. So that's one thing less to worry. And then it's just to prove the fact that the abilities in research, for example, and that's where the creativity of wonderful attorneys like Lastenia do.
Yeah, essentially, thank you, Carlos. I'm sorry, I just want to add up to something. Essentially, if you do have a bachelor degree, foreign bachelor degree, that you study 5+ years, and then you also did a residency, that will be provided that it's from an approved institution, that will be the equivalent of a advanced bachelor's degree in the United States. So it will be a bachelor's degree in the United States. Now, if you actually want to use your master's degree, because you could qualify for a different type of visa based on if you have a bachelor's, a master's, a doctoral degree. If you want to use your master's degree, you can perfectly do that as well. So the first thing that will, as attorneys, advise people is to get their education evaluated, because that's one of the things that is going to open the doors for you to come to the United States and use that degree.
Oh, that's very interesting to know, because so then the first step that the applicant needs to do is also find out if their bachelor's is valid, or
yeah,
not valid, but
it's called academic translation of the degree, and any professional that comes over needs to do that. There's multiple entities, multiple entities that do that. The average cost of that is like around $150. You get a response in about less than a month. You have the degree. They're probably gonna, depending on which route you decide, they will require a copy of your degree, then a certified translated copy into English if it's in different language, and they'll require your transcripts as well, and both in the original language and in English. They all have to be sort of, you can do this, everything, you can do it online. Everything you can do it online. It took me like 3 days to gather the paperwork. And in like 3 weeks, I had my degree. They gave it back to me, and they officially translated my degree into the academic equivalent in the US. So it's super easy to do that.
Yeah, thank you for that information. You guys wonder why Carlos knows so much? Well, he did his job, and then he was working with Lastenia on his process.
Yeah, I highly recommend Lastenia as an attorney, as an
Thank you.
immigration attorney.
Yeah, Carlos is my client.
Mind you,
No,
she
no,
came
not
over to
only
this
that, but
country.
Carlos-
Yeah, mind you, she came over to this country without even being able to fluently speak the language, and she was able to make it. So
That's
everybody
exactly
has a chance, and so she's
Exactly.
more of an example than anyone else here.
Yeah,
Thank you,
we
Carlos, you
have
too.
some, yeah, thank you. So we have somebody that is gonna ask a question. Forgive me if I mispronounce your name. Chukwuwama, I think.
Yes,
Yes.
name. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Please
Oh,
go ahead.
All right. Thank you very much. My name is Chukuma Geruka, also an IMG, currently a CROA right now. I started out from listening to Dan too. Thank you, Dan. My question is this, please. Is it possible for a sponsor company, as regards to clinical research participants in a particular therapeutic unit, for example, vaccine, something like a HIV study? There's a tribe where I come from. I'm originally from West Africa. That it is said that people from that tribe do not get infected with HIV. So sometimes I'm thinking of going into that research and finding a way to bring in these participants from that tribe to the United States to be part of this clinical research. So I'm wondering, the only thing keep holding me back is I'm beginning to think that the sponsor company would rather go to to that country and do that study. I'm asking, what is the possibility of working together with sponsors to bring in participants to participate in a study? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sure, it's possible. All you have to, like I said, that's a very, it will be a very interesting research to actually make, and it will actually help a lot in the community, like in the healthcare community. If like if you guys were able to come up with something like that, it's possible. All will have to be done. The employer may want to actually do it, get it done overseas compared to the United States for different reasons, right? But that's on the employer, but possible it is. Anything that you can think of that you think that will help the healthcare system will be possible to actually come and get it done in the United States.
All right, thank you, because I'm asking because this tribe is a very remote tribe, and I've been there. They have no electricity. They really have no water and all that. So I'm imagining a site cannot even exist there unless you have to transport these people to the nearest, city or something. So I've been having it in my head to do this, and I stand to benefit a lot in this research too, if it works out. So I'm thinking about.
Absolutely. There's actually different visas that also do not require a job sponsor. For instance, if you want to come to the United States and make an investment, you could do an investment visa. Or if you want to come and do other type of visas, there's one visa that is called EB3. That visa do not require an employer to sponsor you. It will require different it will have different requirements, but will also allow you to come to the United States and do a different type of job without the sponsorship of an employer. And also there's another one that is called EB2 with the national interest waiver, where if you can prove to the government of the United States that you actually want to perform some sort of job or a career that is in the interest of the United States, they will waive the employment offer. So essentially, you can probably do it without the sponsor. You would just have to find the right attorney to help you. And I'm sorry if I keep repeating it, but you need to get advice from someone that is capable of helping you with those type of questions. And then you can probably come on a different type of visa if you're not able to find a sponsor for that. Now, the easier way to do it will be with a sponsor, especially if you want to do it as a research. That's for sure a yes. So the other visas will be a little bit more difficult, but there's also possibilities for that.
Lastenia, I think what he was meaning is to bring the patients, not the employers. So for example, if a patient that have a particular condition that no one else in the world has, like he was talking about a tribe that has never been, like they don't get HIV. Their body is immune to HIV. So he's thinking to bring these patients to do a research here. So I think obviously besides the rules and regulations for immigrants, it also has to be taken into account the regulations for research.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry if I misunderstood the question, but in that instance, you know, that's a very interesting position. I have not seen yet. Bringing a person to do a research on that person. That's something that we will have to actually look into it. I do work with some very good experienced immigration attorneys that handle these type of visas as well, that I can actually, we're colleagues, we work in the same company, that we can look into it, you know, like closer to see if that's even actually possible. Because now I'm thinking, okay, so anybody that comes to the United States needs to meet certain criteria in terms of vaccines, and you know, because the United States also don't want to bring some people that could potentially harm the public, right? So we'll have to look into so many different things, but if we are able to come up with the basis and everything, I don't see why not.
All
I
right,
love so many good
you.
answers and so many great questions too.
Mhm.
Okay, so we have, okay. Yeah, we're going to be sharing all the links possible in the when we share this video. And then I think it would be a great idea if Carlos and Lastenia share with us Carlos' story a little bit, and how it started and how it is going.
Yes, thank you again. Yeah, so well, what happens is that our friendship with Lastenia goes way back. We have story. We are friends since we were teenagers. Since we were teenagers, we were in probably middle school when we became friends. Yeah, probably. Yeah, it was quite a long time ago, and I had to. So I came over for some training. I always had the mindset of leaving Honduras and go and practice medicine or get involved in medicine in elsewhere. Because I knew there was something more. There was something more, and like I mentioned before, I was always passionate about scientific research, but I was not entirely. I found out that I was not entirely passionate about the design of the protocols and the methodology of it. I was I'm ER trained, and so I'm more about being on top of the patient, and that's when I discovered clinical research. And then, as I discovered clinical research, I simultaneously discovered through consulting with Lastenia that there's a very interesting legal immigration pathway through clinical research for us, because we already fulfill a good amount of as IMDs, I'm speaking about IMDs and other medical professionals, we already fulfill the most important requirements, which are the academic requirements. And now, if I have someone, for example, my experience with the CRC Academy, doing the externship, that will not only, and then after the externship, I will be provided with my certification and all that. It's true, it's not an academic formal education, but it is considered the acquiring experience. So once I have my professional degree and you add that the certification and you add the experience as a CRC through the externship that the CRC Academy provides you with, you are a very, very qualified professional to opt for a job offer as in a clinical research position, which is how Lastenia has been guiding me through. In the end, personally, it was a different path, a different immigration path, because I had already being under a family-based petition. But if I would have known about this earlier, then I would have probably chose this route instead. And now what happens is that there's a huge amount of Honduran IMGs that are my friends and colleagues over there, and they're looking into the option. So they're crazy about getting more trained, and we have a lot to offer. As IMGs, we have a lot to offer for then multiple research sites, because a PI will understand will speak the same language. We'll speak the same language clinically speaking. At least from our standpoint, we need like less training on our clinical approach. It's more training in the technical approach of regulations, which is what the CRC Academy provides you with.
Yeah, that's actually awesome to hear, because obviously there are a lot of practitioners from overseas that would love to have the opportunity, but they just probably still scared or not looking for the options. So they don't, because they don't know, they don't see them, right? That's why we're doing this video. And then on top of that, we're bringing all these clinicians or these professionals from overseas. Is also going to mitigate the big gap that we have with diversity, because now we're going to have professionals that speak the different language, or that bring the diversity that they already have into the industry. So I think it's a great opportunity for everybody, and obviously this is a great industry to be in. Starting as a clinical research coordinator is probably one of the best ways that I consider. Maybe somebody else have a different opinion. I consider that being a clinical research coordinator is a great way to start, because it gives the physician or the professional a solid foundation in the industry, and from there they can go in million different other paths, including we actually interviewed not so long ago a doctor trained in Mexico that became a medical monitor.
I get asked that question almost every day. Like, how do I be a medical monitor? I mean, clinical research coordinator is like the gateway to all that stuff, and it's such a good entry point for international medical graduates. It's unbelievable, actually, the potential opportunity you can have just from that one position. So, yeah, I mean, we're definitely going to follow Carlos's career, and there's others like him as well. Chukuma, who you heard from, there's lots of stories out there. So I've started advertising more on TikTok as well with the hashtag International Medical Graduate, and it seems to be working a little bit too.
Yeah, and this is also a great path for CNS and for all the practitioners that maybe are underestimating their own knowledge. This industry is amazing, I promise you.
Yep, Chukuma wants to.
Chukuma has
his
another
hand.
question.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We hear you.
It's not a question. It's more like, well, I believe everyone is different, and the level of IQ is different in every human being. It's about the CRC startup. It's wonderful. It's a very good thing. It's a good idea. But I believe that if you know yourself, depending on your level of intelligence and understanding, you can, as a trained doctor with some years of experience. Personally, I got into CRE directly. From IMG to CRE. I didn't go IMG to CRC. And it was a little bit tough first month in the real world, but in there, maybe because of the company I work with, they guide you. And with my knowledge and my training, it became easier. And it's been going well since that time up till now. So I'm not against the CRC part. Okay, but I believe that if you think you know yourself well enough to do it, it's a risk, then go for it. I'm just contributing. Yeah.
Chukua, I have a question for you. Did you have any knowledge at all in research before you actually start or join or became a CRA, or any experience?
The only knowledge I had was months of listening to Dan Farah, his videos, his classes, applying it to my CV. I had tons of interviews and I was able to convince them beyond reasonable doubt.
Okay, okay.
And
And my next question is, how long it took you?
It took me a space of, I think I'll consider myself lucky, about a year and 8 months.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why we recommend the route of the CRC, just because it's going to short that period of time. Is going to make it faster, and then you're going to gain the experience as a CRC, and then go speed up that. For example, if you become a CRC, you could have like 6 months experience and then jump into the CRA. So it will be a much shorter path than, obviously, you were very consistent and determined to achieve that goal. And maybe many other people will get frustrated because they're trying and trying and trying for such a long time and nothing has happened. But I think what actually got you there, besides your intelligence, your knowledge, and obviously your desire to be a CRA, was your determination. Not everybody has the same.
You're very correct. I agree with you 100%.
And I can totally relate to you, Chukwuma, because I thought I could do the CRA. I thought to myself, like, whoa, but I already know this and this and that. I'm like, I could go into a CRA, but then I started seeing what the CRA duties were, and I was like, oh wait, I have zero knowledge, and what is this? So and then I reconsidered, and after doing my research, I did realize that I would prefer you prefer to train yourself, because you have to have CRC knowledge to become a CRA, otherwise you won't be able to make it correctly. And you decided to train yourself, which is amazing, because you're very, very determined and very intelligent. But I'm a hands-on learner. I would prefer to learn at the job instead. And that is in a period of 6 months, like Monica said, you can perfectly acquire the experience necessary to jump as a CRA, because you already have the right background. And the other factor that plays a very important part is, for example, when you're involved in respiratory clinical research, if you have a internal medicine background, if you're a specialist in anesthesiology or something like that, you're going to be oriented there, so you have a plus. However, as an IMG, you don't necessarily have to be a clinical specialist, to become a part of the clinical research field. And if you become a generalist, then you're able to participate in any other research field in clinical research.
Correct again.
Yeah, thank you. I think we have been learning a lot of things in this special session of the Latinos in Clinical Research. Yeah, thank you, Carol. Carol is actually from Mexico. She is one of our dear loyal followers. Thank you, Carol, for being here. So does anybody has any more questions? We have about 1 more minute.
I don't have a question, but I want to say thank you both for being on this webinar today. This is a lot of useful information that hopefully a lot of people get to listen to and can do something with if they're kind of in this middle, not sure which path they can go, if they're an international student or graduate. And hopefully this has provided a lot of answers to those questions, or hopefully they reach out to you and maybe you guys can guide them on that path.
Yeah, thank you both. It's obviously, by the turnout and the questions, it's a topic that's very popular at all times, and we usually don't know how to answer it, so that's why we have experts like you guys on. So thank you.
Lastenia start receiving people. I mean, people start reaching out to Lastenia even before the webinar.
No, absolutely, and feel free. I mean, I was one of them then. I was one people knocking on people's door to find answers. Of course, it's a different profession. I'm an attorney, but I was. I also had to look for people. I also seek advice. I also spoke with people. I also went to different law schools. I did different tests. So I was one of them about, I want to say, 5 years ago, maybe. So
Wow, impressive.
exactly. So feel free, and anything I can help with, like I'm here. There's different options from medicals, for healthcare providers. The best is the research, and the reason being is because is what the government needs, is what they want to come. And so research and professors, scientists, all those positions are always welcome to the United States. So feel free to reach back to me.
Thank you very much, Lastenia and Carlos, for such an informative session.
Absolutely.
And we invite everybody, all the doctors overseas to come to United States. We really need more clinicians here or more professionals. If you're thinking about it, we hope this video actually make you take action. We will be sharing Lastenia information in the link below the video if anybody wants to reach out to her. And we'll also be posting the link that Carlos mentioned about getting the professional
The academic translation.
Yeah,
academic translation, yeah.
the academic translation.
I'm actually gonna do you a favor, and I'm gonna provide you my cell phone number so you can be more personal, closer to me.
Oh, wow.
Oh, you get
Are
that
you
clearance.
sure there's no coming back from this?
No.
Lastenia?
Thank you. This is wonderful.
Oh, Lastenia. You got in trouble.
You don't know what you've just done.
No. Feel free. I mean, I could have been any other kind of attorney, right? Family, accident, any other attorney, but I became an immigration attorney because I'm one of you. Like, I'm the same.
Yeah, we're many here. Thank you for that. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we're going to wrap up here. Then, and anybody from Latinos in Clinical Research team, does anybody has any questions or any additional comments?
Nope.
All right. So, yeah, thank you everybody for being here. We'll see you guys next month for our next webinar. We're going to be planning to do another one of these webinars in Spanish, obviously with our favorite lawyer, Lastenia and company, Carlos.
Yes.
So we can share all this information also for our fellow Latin Americans and Hispanic community. Thank you everybody for being here.